Disclaimer. This is my own opinion, and how I would personally approach this topic. I never once have said to know anything about game design, nor have I claimed to know this game better than Blizzard has. This is merely how I would approach this idea. Now, without further preamble, let's begin. I have been an Overwatch player since mid-2017, and I was hooked into the game from the get-go. It was the first ever first-person shooter I had played, and it was a rush unlike anything I had ever known, and it was the game that led me deeper into gaming. Yet, due to recently odd changes, corporate buyouts, and numerous fan complaints, the current game is a far cry from what veteran players once experienced. Blizzard, this is how to fix Overwatch and how you can make more money doing it. The selling point for the second game, then titled Overwatch 2, was said to be an expansion of the first, and was said to offer new game modes, more cosmetics, and heroes. However, when the full game dropped back in October of 2022, not only were players subjected to a horrendously long wait time of up to 20 to 30 minutes in some cases, but they had to find out that you were forced to buy the first season's premium battle pass, which was $40, in order to gain access to the new heroes, which at the time of the game's release were Kiriko, Sojourn, and Junker Queen, respectively, later to be joined by Ramatra, the leader of Null Sector. Players soon found out that the PvE mode they starved for was not yet implemented, and would be patched in later on in Season 6. The missions, subtitled as Invasion, showcased Null Sector, led by the aforementioned Ramatra, who were capturing Omnics across the world for some unknown purpose. Yet, these levels were not free, as in order to play 3 levels of somewhat decent quality, you were forced to pay $15. Most players, in protest, did not spend their hard-earned money, and as a result, Blizzard decided to outright cancel the PvE mode, the talent trees, and the hero mastery, citing poor sales as the reason for shifting production to the stadium mode. From a veteran player perspective, the game has taken a massive dip in originality, as Blizzard feels if they aren't constantly doing collabs, the most recent one being Nier Automata, previously Transformers, Hello Kitty, and Street Fighter. I have no problem with collabs as long as they are good and we get good skins out of it. They have taken a massive spike in partnerships and collabs recently. Unequal cosmetic distribution as well, as Kiriko, for example, has a massive plethora of skins, whereas a tank such as Ramatra or Maga, who have been in the game for quite a few years now, have very few. With constant changes and the latest additions of 5 new heroes as of March 26, 2026, with 5 more well on the way, the latest being Frankie, Hero 51. Blizzard has added and changed things as of late that did not need to be added nor changed, mending what was never broken. A notable example of this is removing assault maps. Fans complained for years that the assault maps, also called 2 Control Point, or 2CP for short, made matches feel unfair or incredibly tough to win, due to the fact they often favor the defenders as opposed to being more balanced. Many players feel that, personally, heroes or maps should not be removed entirely if a rework is possible. Heroes get reworks, why not maps too? Horizon Lunar Colony was updated to foreshadow Wrecking Ball Hammond joining the playable roster. The same happened on Oasis, being graffitied over by the Freaks to foreshadow their leader, Hazard, entering. These assault maps not only contain more options for gameplay, but also contain heavy lore implications, as if you know Hanzo or Genji Shimada, they're natives of Hanamura, Japan, as that is where their family's Shimada castle resides. Volskaya Industries is the only Russian map, and also is where Zarya resides. If these maps are taken, you do not know where Zarya comes from. She just seems as a random addition. These maps also contain the classic Overwatch feel that many veteran players, myself included, greatly enjoy. I would heavily suggest map reworks, as many players love these maps, and they provide a nostalgic rush, and also diversify the map pool, so you're not playing the same 3 or 4 rounds on the same map over and over again. It is often a joke in the community that Blizzard did not listen to their fans. This is a key change for them to atone for that mistake. The worst case of this is them never updating the matchmaking system within the game, especially in competitive mode. The way the game was designed, it is meant to be 50-50, a coin toss. It comes down to how effectively you and your team can communicate, how effectively you can coordinate attacks, holding positions and such with your team backing you up, and you backing them, instead of just everyone relying on the one really good player being on your team and praying that they carry you to victory. Another key change was removing secondary tank and tank synergy. This now makes the tank role much more sought after in a 5v5 scenario. It continually eludes me why Blizzard decided to remove tank synergy from the game. This change puts an enormous amount of pressure and stress onto the single lone tank role. as things like initiating a fight or defending the team now rely solely on that one person. Quite a lot of unnecessary changes were unjustly done for this new game. I would also heavily barter and consider for bringing back classic SR numbers and removing the messy, complicated ranking X system implemented now, that often many fans have compared to a game like Clash of Clans. I do not want to know that I'm in Gold 3, for example. I want to know, what is my SR? What numbers am I at? How good am I really? I would also consider bringing back the older icons, as they looked much more personal and professional to the game itself. They seemed like something that a competitive mode would actually use. The current ones seem a more cartoony spoof off of Marvel Rivals. Sometimes, when you queue up for a game, especially in competitive mode, text will appear at the top that says fail to connect to server. The competitive mode treats this as an instant loss, which is incredibly unfair to all players involved. I would have considered this to be a, quote, voided match, which means no penalty or loss is given out. You would instead be opted for a priority requeue, as you would if it fails to connect in any other game mode. If a player is suspended and goes to appeal their ban, Blizzard, please do all of us players a massive favor, and have it be a human being who appeals the ban instead of a machine. A machine only gives you factual information to work with. A human gives you emotional inputs, something that a machine cannot replicate no matter how hard they tweak it or try to. If a player is mass reported by a trolling player or toxic on the enemy team, and has their account suspended for hate speech, for example, and they go to appeal said suspension as it is unjust, instead of a real person examining it, it is given to a faulty machine to do the task for them. I, however, will give them some slack, and I do not believe this is entirely Blizzard's fault, as I understand it is hard to, especially with several games under their belt, to have a person for every site and moderation system. However, in my opinion, this does come across as incredibly unprofessional, and it feels like a spit in the face to us as players. I would also consider bringing in a much fairer penalty system. I also know that this next point is being done. However, seeing Stadium mode expanded would be a treat for all players to see, as it has quite a lot of potential. I would like to see more heroes show up in Stadium. Perhaps the biggest thing I'd request is to bring back the PvE mode fully, with talent trees for every hero, similar to what we have in Stadium, but better. If you cannot find players after a few minutes, higher skilled AIs will join your team, acting as player mimics. This would serve for years down the line if the player count in the game starts to dip down. I would remove the item shop as well, and bring back Hero Gallery exclusive items. The only way to buy skins or cosmetics are through the Hero Gallery. Return to form, if you will. The Battle Pass, as of late, in real life, has become a buzzword for greed with companies. Namely, due to games like PUBG or Fortnite abusing the system to drain money from their players and their parents' respective wallets. It is also a big reason that the game is heavily disliked and often mocked. Since this new season is all about faction warfare or conquest, a thought would be reworking the Battle Pass into, depending on whom you side with, the Overpass or the Talon Pass, with between 40 to 80 levels each, depending on whom you side with cosmetics, rewards, player titles, and such being given out, depending on which side you join and stay loyal to. I do know that for this latest season, we had a 5-week event in which you could choose your allegiance, joining either Overwatch or Talon. However, a majority of players decided to spoof this and only decided to farm rewards, screwing hardcore fans out of the heavy lore implication, which many players, myself included, find horrendously unfair and outright rude. Currently within the game, we have too many currencies: translucent coins, golden coins, mythic prisms, Overwatch League credits, and competitive credits. Consolidating the translucent coins into gold would clear this up immensely. We then have very simple and easy currencies to follow: gold coins for cosmetic skins and everything else in the gallery, competitive coins for weapon skins, such as the late Crimson Wolf, which has come out, mythic skins for mythic prisms, and the Overwatch League credits for the Overwatch League skins, or the special ones that Blizzard decides to release. It keeps the game concise and neat. Also, heavily consider lowering the pricing of these by a few dollars each, as it would encourage player purchasing, and Blizzard would make quite a pretty penny from it. I would also heavily opt for bringing back the season lock, so you can only buy winter-themed skins during December, only Halloween skins during October, etc. This is so players learn to be wise with their spending, which is a good lesson both in-game and in real life, which would also cause them to think much more forward and plan in advance, which would also help their gameplay. I have not once seen someone use weapon charms nor souvenirs in a match. It is only emotes I see and sprays. I would rework these two concepts into more ideas for sprays and skins. Why do we have weapon charms in a first-person shooter like Overwatch? This is a shooter title, not a game of Fortnite. An unnecessary change would also be the main menu, as the current one, as of late, looks like a carbon copy of the Marvel Rivals one, which many fans have drawn conclusions to. And funny parallels. It is also a firm belief of mine that Blizzard should bring back the old leveling system, as it gave you some form of thing to look to after a match. I would also consider bringing back the medal system, post-match cards, and medal tracking in-game, as those made the game feel competitive. It made it feel like you were contributing something to a match, like you earned that victory. Now, it feels rather bland. You just see stats, a meaningless pickup bar for whatever hero you just played, and then your battle pass rank moving, and that is all. Quite a letdown of a post-match card, no? I would also heavily opt for making endorsements mean something. Anything at all. They only exist to give players a single loot box or two, and to somewhat show that this person is a good sport. Please make it mean something other than just it is there for coolness' sake. This game is about how good you are with heroes, so why not bring back the hero mastery in the practice range, as well as a complete retool of the practice range? Not entirely, just to make it more current and productive. Examples of this would be aim tracking, positioning awareness, effective callouts, examples being Widow on choke, left side, Reaper has blossom, spread out, Zen has trance, focus him down, etc. Also consider bringing back the Overwatch League skins, as well as for teams that no longer exist, as well as current teams, to bring the full experience of the game back. Several articles claim that Blizzard did these changes in order to make the players want to buy more cosmetics and such, so Blizzard, makes more money off of the game, as that is the point of a video game. They evidently do not know their player base, as that could not be further from the truth. I have a very big idea that the player base and the lore junkies will love. This is how Blizzard could make millions, and how they could take Overwatch truly global, yet they're squandering it. I present to you Overwatch Archives, a 2D animated series, similar to Invincible's art style, yet with Overwatch subbed in. Let us say each season has 22 episodes, and each episode is roughly 4 to 5 minutes long, which gives you plenty of time for world building, interactions, and etc. I could see this being a prequel series, showing just after the Omnic Crisis, Overwatch is founded in the pilot episode, Blackwatch being an undercurrent throughout the show, detailing the heinous things that Gabriel Reyes and Moria Odiran did in Blackwatch. I could see the show having perhaps 7 seasons, with Season 7 having 25 episodes, picking up at the end of Season 6, which I would have it be the Venice Incident, where the late Antonio Bartolotti was executed by Gabriel Reyes, exposing Blackwatch's deeds to the world, with Season 7 being the escalation and the fallout of that incident. Perhaps the Petrus hearings that Vivian Chase, callsign Sojourn, spoke at. I can envision the series finale of this being the final battle at the Swiss headquarters, where the viewers find out what truly happened there that night. For a hypothetical Season 8, I would simply title it After the Fall, showing what happened after Overwatch was disbanded. Freya becoming a bounty hunter, Emre falling into this conspiracy, Marzia Bartolotti, the daughter of Talon Figurehead Antonio Bartolotti, becoming La Lupa and the Gladiatrix of Rome, Reaper linking up with Talon, and etc. We could see the original strike team in the show, the Soldier Enhancement Program, and Olivia Colomar slowly transitioning into Sombra. If they do decide to go with this idea, a sequel series could be perhaps current day. The Null Sector invasion, leading to Vendetta's new empire rising, a subplot with Kiriko, Hanzo and Genji facing the Hashimoto clan in Japan. And for an argument on player mentality, and Blizzard's inability to change said mentality is also a point of higher discussion. By implementing the hero ban system into competitive mode, players are refusing to grow. The most often banned heroes are, as of this recording, Domina, Jetpack Cat, Sombra, Zarya, and Mauga Malosi. By giving players a chance to ban these specific heroes, the community of players refuses to grow and adapt to these, quote, low-skill or spammy heroes. By removing the ban feature, and with proper tweaking to the competitive matchmaking system, players not only would adapt to these heroes across all ranks of competitive, from bronze to top 500, yet these heroes, by adapting to them, it opens the door for much higher skilled plays and much better matches in terms of quality and game sense. If you know to spike check a Sombra, or to pedal back when a Vendetta does her whirlwind like a psychotic gladiator ballerina, you are doing better than 90% of the player base who is not doing that. The same points could be made for maps, especially assault maps, given their removal from the main game. Less maps results in games that feel dull. Playing on the same few maps every game, picking between 3 random maps, likely 2 of the 3 are of the same mode. It's endlessly repetitive, and Blizzard has failed us as players by implementing more maps. Now, for the lore. The story of Overwatch is set in 2077, the far future. Roughly 50 years in the future, to be exact. Had I handled shaping Marzia Bartolotti in Vendetta, a few things would have been done vastly differently. First, I would have made her seem as a much more legitimate threat, perhaps hunting down Talon operatives as opposed to facing unnamed opponents in the arena of Rome, in the Colosseo. This would have made her defeat of Doomfist seem much more earned, and from a power scaling perspective, seem much more feasible. As she currently stands, Marzia is mostly hated by fans, as they deem her a Mary Sue, or a very boring antagonist, like a very stereotypical villain. Mostly due to the Reign of Talon cinematic, which showed Marzia ambushing and defeating Akande Ogundimu, the third holder of the Doomfist title, nicknamed the Successor, cutting his gauntlet off and jettisoning him out of a window to his assumed death in front of the other High Council members of Talon. Given how Doomfist was built up over 2 games as being a force of nature, being able to take on 3 top Overwatch agents, nearly killing 2 of the 3 of them that were sent to intercept him. Him losing a fight out of the gates seems like bending the lore and power scaling just to make for a shocking upset moment. However, I view this in a much different light. 1. Akande was caught off guard by an ambush, and still held his own quite well, as it was not a complete one-sided squash. We know Doomfist has a harder time facing smaller combatants, as shown with Tracer and Genji in his debut cinematic, so this is not entirely out of character for this battle. Second, Doomfist underestimated Vendetta. Marzia did not underestimate Akande, as she had spent years studying him and the other members of Talon, figuring out where their weaknesses were. Another note of reference is that Doomfist is highly arrogant, especially in this fight. I view it from this point, that a more calm and focused rage, as seen in Vendetta, can overcome a wildly unfocused power in Doomfist. I will say I do not believe that Akande is dead. I do not believe that Blizzard would dedicate that much time and effort into a character just to have him killed off in a one-off cinematic most players do not even bother watching. Another high point of reference would be changing Cole Cassidy's name back to Jesse McCree. I do know that there was a comic that came out that showed him supposedly finding his true identity. However, in real life, the lawsuit that prompted this name change was involving a real employee of the same name. Do remind to separate the art, that being the character of Jesse McCree / Cole Cassidy, from the artist, that being the now fired employee of Blizzard who went by the same name. It is a video game. It is not that deep to change a name back merely over a lawsuit. Many players still refer to him by the surname McCree instead of Cassidy. On other removed features, I do not see them coming back, as they seem mostly pointless in this current play structure of the game, an example being the priority passes, which would lessen queue times. The priority passes were completely useless. Why force players into the flex/open queue slot where they most likely would lose a match, just to have them re-roll it to get a slightly faster queue time for something that you are good at? It is circular reasoning that makes no sense. If fans wish for Vendetta to become a true threat on the level of Doomfist, or perhaps even higher, then I have an idea of how you could do it. Have the Hashimoto clan, whom she has allied with as of the New Empire comic, or the Vengeance Comes comic, rather, apologies, make an anima avatar using Kiriko's father, Toshiro Yamagami, and gift it to Vendetta. This avatar would manifest La Lupa, that being the she-wolf that she has seen in her visions. Yet, I would have a key drawback, that this drains Vendetta a lot when she uses it, similar to Hanzo or Genji's dragons, or even Kiriko's fox spirit. While yes, this may seem like fan service or Blizzard quote-unquote playing favorites, it would empower Vendetta and make her a notable and brutal villain for the story. It also helps her gain more power to exert control over Talon, namely Sibylline de Cowper, specifically, as Emre states in an interaction that Marcia has Sibylline on a very tight and very short leash, with Sigma later reaffirming to Olivia Colomar, codenamed Sombra, that conditions have much worsened since her split from the organization. Another key thing, Freya Skov and Emre Cerula do not need to be in a relationship angle. Their lore is that they are co-workers, both working in search and rescue, with Emre, after leaving Overwatch, doing a brief stint with the mercenary group and terrorist organization known as Talon. Forcing love tropes like this does not work, and it is a cheap way to circumvent character development. This love angle does not work here in any sense of the word. Outside of one interaction which can simply be taken as post-match or pre-mission teasing or joking, a better comparison for their relationship would be a highly professional one, similar to that of Jax Briggs and Sonya Blade from Mortal Kombat 9, as they are portrayed as a professional brother and sister-in-arms type of duo that would die for each other, but have a professional courtesy and respect for one another. Nothing romantic about it. The final thing I would say is the main way Blizzard can make money with this game. Merchandise. Cosplay is huge. Why not make licensed props? Example, Doomfist Gauntlet, Freya's crossbow, her bolas, Vendetta's Palantir Fang sword, perhaps a piece of her armor, etc. Hanzo's bow, Genji's sword, and sell them. A partnership with Jada Toys, or even the parent company of Marvel Legends, that being Hasbro, to make figures would do wonders for collectors. Given that Blizzard would also make a commission off of these figures, they would be making money as well, and the fans would get something out of it. I would also opt for making skins from the game, from both Game 1 and 2, along with making the Overwatch skins that are from the League, each released in waves. Jada Toys, as their figures are highly posable and accurate, albeit a little bit loose. Marvel Legends figures are quite well made and far more durable, and they capture much more pristine detail. The current figures that we have are very limited in their posability and have quite odd articulation and are decently accurate to the way they're presented in-game, as well as a horrendous selection of figures offering several repaints instead of focusing on releasing each hero first prior to releasing alternative skins or repaints. In closing, Overwatch is a game that I have loved for a very long time, over a decade at this point, and to see its company, Blizzard, squandering what could make this game truly great is deeply saddening to me, and I know many other players share my sentiments, yet they will not speak up for fear of their accounts getting deleted or just people not listening to them. So, to all those players, I made this video, I will be your voice. Know that you are not in this, and that we are players. We are in this together. We will be out there pushing payloads, making obscene, out-of-your-mind plays, and getting the most insane clips anyone has ever seen populate Twitch. I do hope that this video is reposted enough that Blizzard can both see this and actually take this advice and implement these changes. Ladies, gentlemen, and whomever else is watching, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and check out some of my other videos. This is the longest video I have recorded, chalking in at somewhere around 30 minutes or so. And, thank you. This is Silver, signing off. Have a good one.